Thank you for watching our message online today. We would love to hear how God's working in your life, and you could share your story with us at amen@freedomchurch.sc. If you would just email your story, we'd love to hear and celebrate with you. Or maybe God moved during this message and you want to financially partner with us here at Freedom. You can do that too by visiting freedomchurch.sc/give to partner with us. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and we believe that God's going to use today's message to transform your life.
Amen. Well, why don't y'all have a seat? We launched last weekend into a brand new series of sermons called Playlist. Did you guys enjoy last week? Did you guys get anything out of that? And this is a series where we're trying to kind of creatively preach like Jesus preached. Jesus was very creative in how he taught, and Jesus was very creative in the illustrations that he would use, whether it was a well and water, whether it was a little boy's bread that he was getting ready to do a miracle with, and he would talk about the bread, and whatever it was around him, Jesus knew how to preach and use those as illustrations. And so during this series, we're going to take songs that are popular in our world and songs that maybe speak to us in the radio, and we don't really know exactly, like, sometimes what we're singing, but we know the words. But we hope that we could take the words and illustrate how God can use these words in these moments in our lives of these very popular songs to teach us something about God. And so we hope actually that you will be able to kind of listen to these songs in the future and not just have learned something from them today, but that you would sense God's presence even still when you hear them later on. And so let me kind of ask you a question. Have you ever been in a really bad place in life, a dark place even in life? You've been in this place in life where you start to question really if you'll ever get out of that place. And maybe a bad decision became a bad day. And then a bad day became what felt like some bad weeks and bad months. And then some bad months begin to be a bad year, and that darkness begins to cloud over your life, and you don't know really what you'll do about it, and you don't know how you'll get through it. Well, Shawn Mendes, in his hit song, "In My Blood," reminds us that even when we are overwhelmed, and even when we are insecure, and even when we don't have any idea what we do, and there's so many ways that our minds and this world tell us to solve our problems, and so many ways that they tell us that the darkness can go away, that we realize that because of the blood of Jesus, it's not in our DNA and it's not in our blood to give up.
Help me. It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. Laying on the bathroom floor, feeling nothing. I'm overwhelmed and insecure. Give me something I could take to ease my mind slowly. Just have a drink and you feel better. Just take her home and you feel better. Keep telling me that it gets better. Does it ever? Help me. It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up. No medicine is strong enough. Someone help me. I'm crawling in my skin. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. It isn't in my blood. Looking through my phone again, I'm feeling anxious, afraid to be alone again. I hate this. I'm trying to find a way to chill. Can't breathe. Oh, is there somebody who could help me? It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up. No medicine is strong enough. Someone help me. just can't. He isn't in my blood. He isn't in my blood. I need some blood. I need some blood. Someone to help me out. I need somebody now. Help me. It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. It's in my blood. I need somebody now. It isn't in my blood. I need somebody now. I need somebody now. It isn't in my
Help me. I feel like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up. No medicine is strong enough. Someone help me. Have you ever found yourself in that place? I know I have. We feel like everything's caving in on me. Everything's pushing in on me. If I'm crawling in my skin, sometimes I feel like giving up. But I just can't, because it isn't in my blood. I just can't because it's not in my DNA. I just can't because there's something inside of me that continues to call out to me to not give up. There's something inside of me that just continues to beg me not to give up. There's something inside of me that says, this is not how you were designed. And we've all had these types of moments in our life where we feel like we just can't make it any longer, and we just feel like we have to give up. And as the biblical backdrop of our series, we've been looking at the story of Jacob and Esau, and it's one of my favorite stories. And his wives, his mom Rebecca, and his wives Rachel and Leah, and we'll get to the wives part, I promise, at some point in the future of this series. And you may remember last week that we talked about Jacob a whole lot, but we also brought up his brother just a little bit, Esau. And we brought up Esau because he traded his birthright. Remember, the land, the ability to kind of lead his family, all of the possessions, everything. He traded his birthright for a bowl of red soup. And we remember, we were looking at that and going, man, what did Jacob get out of this? And how did Jacob change because of this? And what changed even within Jacob to go later and to steal not just the birthright, but the blessing from Esau as well? But there are two sides to every story, right? And we looked at Jacob's side last weekend, and we saw that Jacob was a deceiver, and we saw that Jacob was always trying to go after everything that his brother had from the very beginning when he was clasping for his heel. But there's another side of the story, and that is the story of Esau. And so as these boys grew up, Esau became the skillful hunter. Remember, we talked about the fact that Esau wears what kind of jeans? Wranglers. And Jacob buys his jeans from where? H&M. All right, some of y'all were here last weekend. And so just kind of define who they were just a little bit. And you remember that Esau was a skillful hunter. He kind of was there kind of as one of these guys that his father loved him. And Esau found himself as this manly man, this just very skillful hunter, this man who he took care of himself, right? If he's a skillful hunter, he knew how to go out and find the food that he needed and do what he needed to do. And so he finds himself now in this moment where he has this really bad day. And then he made a really bad choice. Have you ever been there? Just a really bad day. But then because of that bad day, he made this really bad choice. And then all of a sudden, he is in the potential for what could be a really bad life. Let's look at Genesis chapter 25, starting in verse 27. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. He was a homeboy. He was a mama's boy. Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game that Esau brought home. Can't blame a dad for that. He's bringing home meat off the grill. I mean, who doesn't like their son if they bring home fresh venison steaks for them and venison burgers? And then he's there and he says, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Rebekah loved Jacob. Any of y'all ever been, you've gotten mature enough to admit in your own home that there's one or more of you that your parents love more than you? Have you been there? You know there's a favorite child, right? Everybody says you love all your children exactly the same. No, you don't. And so, all right, Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home, but Rebekah loved Jacob. One day, when Jacob was cooking some stew, so he was at home cooking, watching the chef shows on Home Channel, learning some new recipes, when Esau arrived from the wilderness, exhausted and hungry. He's exhausted and hungry. I'm not a hunter. I think you guys have probably picked up on that over the years. I hunt good deals on sneakers. That's what I hunt. I'm not a hunter, but I know if you come home from hunting exhausted and hungry, it wasn't a good hunt. Especially in this day. Like now we got to take things, get them processed before we can cook them. They were eating them right off the kill. They were going out to hunt today's food. And so he comes home and he is exhausted after a day of hunting. And here's the thing about this. This is what Esau was good at. Like, this was his jam. Like, this was Esau's thing. His dad loved him because of this. His identity was based on this. Like, Esau was good at hunting, and now it's what his father's approval was based on. And now he comes home, and he's hungry. He's hungry. In this day and age, we might even say that he was thirsty. He was thirsty. I found out recently that thirsty has a whole nother meaning. Did you guys know that in culture now, words can really become their own kind of thing and they get their own meanings? And if you're over 40 like me, you can be using words and you don't even know that the teenagers and the young adults have whole other meanings for them. And so you can be saying really inappropriate things and you don't even know that you're saying them. So as a help to that, one thing you might want to do is learn about this thing called Urban Dictionary. It's really, really useful to old dudes like me, because I'll say something and people giggle and I'm like, that's not funny, and that wasn't funny in 1998. I don't understand why that's funny. And so I have to go to Urban Dictionary and look up. There's a couple I was looking up on Urban Dictionary to find out about this word thirsty. And a couple of things I found that were pretty funny to me. There's a whole word out there for a person. It's a guy, and you call him a dude bro. A dude bro. And if you don't know what a dude bro is a guy who starts every conversation with dude and ends every conversation with bro. If you've met him, now that I've said that, you know who he is. He's like, dude, then he talks and this is going on, all right, bro. And that's the end of his conversation. Part of it is he doesn't know your name, and so he just calls you bro, because he's never really taken the time to learn your name. There's another one I learned, and I actually have heard this one before. I don't think I've ever used it, because, so yesterday I had on a ball cap, and Connie looked at me and she said, hey, you don't need to wear that cap anymore. And I was like, oh, what's up? She's like, it just doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right on you. You just don't look right. And I told somebody recently, I said, when I wear a hat, I look like I'm not supposed to be wearing it. And you know what, like some people just have the perfect head for a hat, like they just look right in a hat. When I wear a hat, it looks like I've got some extension to my head that's not supposed to be, like a Lego character that wears a hat. You know how they sit up on the top of their head real weird? And I can adjust the band in the back. I can pull it down. And if I was blessed with these really big ears, and so if I pull it down too much, my ears stick out. And like I heard from, some hip people in my life, you're not supposed to let the hat sit over your ears just a little bit to hold them down, which is what I used to do. And they said, that's lame. You can't do that. And so I just don't look like in a hat. And I don't look right or feel right using this word, but I knew this word, and that is the struggle bus. Have you guys ever heard that one? Oh, man, I'm on the struggle bus. If I say that, it looks like I'm wearing clothes that doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't feel right. But the struggle bus is another word. Like, man, I'm on the struggle bus. I'm on the struggle bus. And I feel like Esau found himself on the struggle bus because we was thirsty. And here's what thirsty means. Is to be thirsty is this person who maybe tries a little bit too hard. This person who maybe is reaching out for something, just can't quite find what they need. It comes, they're exhausted from it. And thirsty is the friend who, when they text you, if you don't text them back within like 5 minutes, they text you again. And then if you don't text them back in another 5 minutes, they text you like a emoji that's got the 3 dots on it, like ... like what you doing? Like, why aren't you texting me back? And then they go to Instagram and comment on something just to see if you are on Instagram, if you'll comment back to them. They're a little bit thirsty. Thirsty is the guy or the girl who on the first date is like, so how many kids are you thinking about having? Have you got your wedding dress picked out already? Like, have you already done that? Like that's thirsty. Thirsty is the person who is always on your Instagram, always liking your Instagram, like always, everything you do, they like before you actually have even had time to hardly post it. And you're like, they're obviously sitting there waiting to like stuff you put up. And so you go, they're a little bit thirsty. And so he finds himself, Esau does, in the situation where kind of his soul and physically and emotionally, he's just a little bit thirsty. He's hungry. He's exhausted. He's looking for just something that can fill his soul, something that can fill his belly, something that can meet the needs in his life. He's just looking for something. And sometimes, I don't know if you do this or not, but sometimes I need too much from the wrong place. Now, I know, listen to me. If you came to counseling with me, one of the first things that I would tell you is that you have to find your sufficiency in Christ. You have to find your identity in God. You have to be filled up by Him. All of those things. And I love all those things, and all those things are true. But how many of you know that sometime I need God with some skin on? Do you guys ever get there where you're just like, I know that it looks good on a t-shirt to say God meets all of my needs, but He typically meets my needs through a friend like Marcus, who will call me and text me and tell me, hey man, what's going on? How are you doing in life? He typically meets my needs through a spouse like Connie, who meets needs in my life and is wonderful to me and spoils me and does all these things. And so when they are not kind of doing what they need to do and they're not there for me, I go, I need more from them than I can possibly get from them. And so I put this weight on them. And Esau finds himself there, where he's going, I need something right now to fill my soul. And he's looking for too much from the wrong place. And I don't know, maybe he came home disappointed that he couldn't go and tell his dad the great thing that he had done. I wonder who is in your life that you're constantly trying to measure up to so that you can feel like you belong. I wonder who is in your life that when you let them down, even with just the slightest little way, that you feel like you have failed in some way. And that's where Esau is, and he's thirsty. And I think Esau knew that it shouldn't have been able to put him in the place that it put him in this dark moment of his soul, but it did. It put him in there. And so Esau said to Jacob, when he comes in, he says, I'm starved. I'm starving, he says. Give me some of that red stew. So he had a bad day, and we all have bad days. And he comes in, and he's so hungry, so hungry. And I don't know what's in the bowl of your bad days and the things that you kind of need to fill your soul. I don't know whether it's depression that maybe will take over sometimes. And I'm not talking about just, I'm a little bit blue today. I'm talking about where there are moments where you can't get out of the bed type of days. I don't know if that's what a dark moment, a bad day looks for like. I don't know if for you the bad day is that you lost your temper again, and that just seems to be what you're characterized by, that when things get tough, you lash out at those you love, you scream at those you love, you lash out at people at work, you slam tables, you hit whiteboards in game 1 of the NBA Finals and break your hand. I don't know if that's what it looks like for you. I don't know if it looks like for you that there's a distance that you create and that's what brings your dark days, that you look around and finally realize I don't have anybody to pour into me. Like I don't have anybody to feed my soul. I don't have anybody that is close enough to me to really know what's going on. Like that's a sobering moment when you're in a very dark place and no one is close enough to you to realize that it's dark. And I don't know if a dark day for you is just out of control. Maybe you're all of these. Maybe you get depressed a little bit. Maybe you get really angry. Maybe you're distanced, and it's just out of control. But Esau finds himself. And the question really is not will we have bad days? Because every single one of us have had bad days, and every single one of us will have bad days. Every single one of us have a besetting sin that comes into our lives when we have these bad days, and it will come again. The question is will you allow your bad day to become a bad life? The question is will you allow that moment to gain momentum to where all of a sudden you find yourself asking for something to fill you, for something to be there for you. And so, verse 31, he says, all right, Jacob replied. Remember, what has Esau said? I'm starved. Give me some of that red soup. He wants some of what Jacob has. He's looking for something. He says, all right, Jacob replied, but trade me your rights as the firstborn son. How many of you have siblings? How many of you have siblings? You have siblings. So all of it, we know something about this. I think as I read this, that this is kind of crazy. I feel like Jacob was joking. Like, all right, because I want you to think about this. Jacob is sitting there, and he's eating some red stew, right? Some soup, some bean soup. And he's sitting there eating it, and his brother comes in, and he's had a bad day. Now, I don't know about you and your siblings, but you can kind of pick up on when they've had a bad day, and sometimes you're in the mood to help pull them up. Sometimes you're in the mood to push them down just a little bit more. You know what I'm talking about, right? And I think Jacob is just kind of picking just a little bit. Oh, you had a bad day? You want some soup? All right, trade me your soup for your whole birthright. That'd be great. That'd be great. Let's do that. Because you got to think, this is the equivalent of a brother who knows that his brother has been saving up for a house for years and has a down payment, maybe a 20% down payment for a nice house in the savings account. And his brother comes in and goes, hey, can I have some of that Papa John's? And you go, yeah, can I have a slice of pizza? Give me everything in your savings account. Like this is the equivalent of what's going on right here. So Jacob, you know, if you're the brother, you're going, yeah, I'll give you a slice of pizza. Give me $1,000. Give me everything you've got. Give me the $30,000 you've been saving for a house in your savings account. Give me that. And you know your brother's going to go, be quiet, give me the pizza, and he's going to come and beat you up because he's the older brother, and he's going to take the pizza. I think Jacob is totally expecting Esau to go, shut up, give me some red stew. Like, I'm your big brother. I'm the one who wears Wranglers. I will take the soup from you and pour it down your gullet if I have to. Like, what do you need me to do? But he just asked him this question, and it shows us where Esau is, because Esau looks and says, look, I'm dying of starvation, said Esau. What good is my birthright to me now? And as I read that, it really shows us where Esau is. Because listen, is he really starving? Like, don't you love it when your kids who just had like lunch are like, I'm starving, I'm so starving. And you're like, you're not starving. Don't use that word. Don't use that word. You don't know what starving is. You have no idea what starving is. And so Jacob is like, Esau's like, I'm starving. I don't think he's really starving. Was Esau really going to die if he didn't eat that one bowl of stew right then? I don't think so. Esau was strong and healthy enough to have just been on a hunt. Like he just did the men's hike. All right, he just went out, he did it, he just went out and hunted, he just did all of that. Now he's just coming back and he's a little disappointed because he didn't get what he wanted to. He's a little disappointed because he didn't be able to bring back for his dad what he wanted to. And now all of a sudden he's like, I just can't make it, I'm dying here. One of the enemy's greatest tools is to get you to exaggerate your burdens and to ignore your blessings. Because if you'll exaggerate your burdens, it was the worst day I've ever had in my life. Oh, my gosh. My marriage is never going to ever in the history of the whole world get better. He hates me. She doesn't like me. I don't even like her at all. Like, I don't even like her anymore. And you just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, really, is what happened. We exaggerate. We have one bad financial moment. Flat tire. Yeah, it wipes out our savings. We should have had more in savings, but it wipes it out. And the world has ended. We exaggerate our burdens. but ignore our blessings. Have you ever been guilty of that, exaggerating your circumstances? Sometimes you exaggerate your circumstances to make other people feel sorry for you. Sometimes you exaggerate your circumstances to give yourself the freedom to make a mistake. Sometimes you exaggerate your circumstances because you want to condone the apathy in your life. Sometimes you exaggerate your circumstances because you want to act like you're already pulled underneath the tidal waves when you really could swim, but you don't really want to swim right now. So we exaggerate our circumstances. And I wonder a little bit, I don't know, maybe I've been reading too much about history and kings who abdicated their thrones after the royal wedding and just reading about different things and watching Crown on Netflix and stuff. But I wonder if Esau was sort of like, you know what? This whole birthright thing's a lot of responsibility. This whole taking care of everybody. Part of the birthright is you were responsible for everybody in the family. Like everybody. So extended people, cousins, second cousins, third cousin. I mean, you're just responsible for them all. And so you take them in, you got to help them, you got to feed them. And now he's had this one bad day and he's like, who am I? How am I going to take care of my family? I can't even go out and hunt today. What if I just gave all this to Jacob? Like, what if I just abdicated all of my responsibility over to him? I wonder if there's not some dads in this room who have abdicated all your responsibility, not out of irresponsibility, but out of a fear that you could never be the dad because you never had one. And so you give away that responsibility just out of fear that you could never measure up. So you act like you're not really good at the emotional stuff, and you act like you're not really good at being dad, and you go, that's all, she'll parent the kids, like she keeps the kids. You're one of the guys who calls it babysitting when you keep your kids. Like, can I just tell you, you're not babysitting, by the way, when you keep your kids. If you want to get your face slapped by somebody, you just tell your wife, hey, am I babysitting the kids today? Whose kids are you babysitting? You babysitting the neighbor's kids? Because you're not babysitting our kids. Like, anyway, but that's a whole other thing. But I just feel like there might be some dads in here who feel that way, and Esau felt that way, like he just didn't know what to do. How about this? Even worse is sometimes then exaggerating our burdens is ignoring the blessings that come from obedience. Esau probably never took the time to think about his birthright and the benefits of it. He probably never saw himself taking possession of it and what it would mean and what it would look like. And this is a great exercise, by the way, for all of us, is just to imagine, like, what would it look like to meet my goals? What would it look like if I obeyed God in this area for the long haul? What if I just said, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, and no matter what comes, this is what I'm doing in my life? What would it look like if I got healthy? What would it look like if I saved a little bit of money? What would it look, kind of imagining and going, okay, I know what the burden feels like, but what would the blessing look like if I continue to walk forward in obedience? We can visualize it. We can also do the same thing with the circumstances of making bad mistakes. I wonder if Esau actually said, you know what, I wonder what it would look like if I gave this up. What does my life look like if I'm so thirsty, so tired, so hungry that I give away my birthright? So we minimize our future blessing. We magnify our current condition. And he's decided in this moment. And I think a lot of us do this. I think a lot of us are doing it right now. He decided in this moment that satisfying his immediate desire was more important than receiving the natural blessing that would come from obedience and the supernatural blessing that would come later on down the road as well. His immediate desire, and I don't know what's in the bowl for you when it comes to that. I don't know if your immediate desire is just pleasure. I don't know if the immediate desire for you is, I just want to be happy. I don't know if the immediate desire for you is, I just want some extra money. I don't know what it is that you think. This would make me feel better right now. If I just did this would make me feel so much better right now. But I want you to imagine whatever it is that's in that bowl, that eventually it's going to pass. You eat the soup and then you're hungry again. You go to the website, then you're hungry again. You go through and you leave your wife, and then you're hungry again. You're thirsty again. And here's the thing I found about people. You leave your wife, but you're going to take you with you. Like, you're going to take you with you. And so you go, and you're still going to have the same issues and the same problems, and then you're just going to mess up somebody else. And so I wonder what would it look like if we didn't go, what do I need to fill my soul right now, immediately in this moment, and said, rather than that, what if I visualize, what does it look like if I obey God in this moment? What does it look like, Esau, if you go and you get a good night's rest, you sharpen up the bow and arrow, you go and you wake up early the next morning, and you go out and you hunt again? What does that look like? What does it look like if you go, you know what, this was a bad day. It did not go well, but I'm going to go to sleep, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning, and I'm going to obey God. And then it might not go well tomorrow either, but I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm going to wake up the next morning, and I'm going to obey God. I wonder how his life could have been changed. But Jacob said, first, you must swear that your birthright is mine. Jacob's like, wait, what? You serious? You're going to give me your birthright for a bowl of soup? All right, well then we got to put this thing in writing. Like we got to get this thing down. And so Esau swore an oath, thereby selling all of his rights as the firstborn to his brother Jacob. And then Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew, and Esau ate the meal. Then he got up and he left. So he traded his future for a quick fulfillment. He traded his future for what he thought was best in the moment. He traded his future for something he was thirsty for. And before we judge Esau too harshly, let's just not forget that we do the same thing. I think that God put this story in Scripture and lets us know about Esau because there's some of you in here who are trading your future for a text to an old fling that you found on Facebook. And right now it feels very tame, just reaching out to an old friend, but there's something within your soul who knows it's more than that. There are some of you who right now are trading your future for the sites that you're hiding from everybody that you're visiting on the web. And you've got it down. You know how to hide it. But you're trading the future. You're trading your future for, it's not just an email or a text message or a Facebook message for you anymore. It's an actual meetup. And you're right on the verge, or maybe you've crossed the line already in here. And you're trading the future blessing for a bowl of soup. That's what we've got to look at everything that's temporary as. I don't want to be too graphic, but Esau was going to eat this soup. Esau was going to digest this soup, and Esau was going to get rid of this soup one day. And you've got to look at these temporary things in your life as just that. They will come one day to be nothing. They will pass away. They will pass through. In the moment, I know it feels like no one loves you right now, so I'll go find someone who does. In the moment, I know it feels like this change will not affect me long term, but it will make me happy long. In the moment, I know it feels like no one will ever know, but it's eating away at your birthright, at your soul. It's not in your blood to give up this easy. It's not in your DNA if you're following after Jesus. And so we traded in a moment. A decision becomes a bad day, and then a bad day becomes a bad week, and a bad week becomes a bad month, and a bad month becomes a bad season, and a bad season becomes a bad life. And remember what happens later. Jacob is sort of emblazoned by this success, as you can imagine. He's like, I can't believe I got him to do this. And he's sort of like given like new fire under his wings. And so he goes, and later on he teams up with his mom to also steal his blessing. And remember, the birthright was the tangible physical thing. And I know you're dealing with a tangible physical thing right now. I know that everything you're thinking about and all of the decisions you're thinking about, they seem so tangible. They seem so physical. They seem just to affect this life. They seem just to affect your happiness. They seem just to affect your outside. Like, this will be better if I do this. This will be better if I just take this pleasure. This will be better if I just make this change. But we see later for Esau that it may seem just physical to you now, but eventually everything is spiritual, because later on, Jacob will get the guts to go and steal the blessing as well. And remember, the blessing was a spiritual blessing. So it went from just being, I want to abdicate my responsibilities to take care of my family, to now Jacob is going to receive the spiritual blessing from Isaac, the one that Esau should have received, the spiritual blessing. His spiritual life is affected by this decision. But I want to show you something about this decision. And I want to show you something about your identity in your decision. And there's this passage later on, and it's in this moment where Jacob has stolen the blessing. So remember, he stole the birthright. Some years go by, he steals the blessing, and now he's stolen the blessing. He's taken a 1-2 punch to his brother Esau. And there is this passage that you've never seen before, because I had never seen it either. And it's incredible. It's amazing. It never jumped out at me at all. But it's right there in the midst of this story. And it's right in the midst of Isaac letting Esau know that he has lost his spiritual blessing. It's right there in the midst of his father is just giving away his blessing to his son, his brother rather, Jacob. And you can imagine that Esau is so down, so depressed, so broken. He lost his birthright because of a stupid move. And now he's been tricked out of his blessing. It all became spiritual, and he is so broken. And it says that Esau pleaded, but do you only have one blessing? He's looking at his dad with tears in his eyes. Do you only have one blessing, Dad? Can't you give me another blessing? Don't I get another chance? I mean, I know what I chose. I know the decision that I made. Can you give me another chance? Can you give me one more blessing? Oh, my Father, bless me too. Then Esau broke down and wept. Have you ever been there when you realize what you've done, in that moment where you realize the decision that you made was not going to just affect you, it was going to affect everyone around you. When you realize that the decision that you made was going to stay with you for a long time. When you remember the catastrophic change that it was going to make to your life, and he's there and he realizes what has happened. It's in that moment when you feel the guilt of your sin. And it says, finally, his father, because I believe his father wept with him. They were both broken. Finally, his father Isaac said to him, you will live away from the richness of the earth. He says, Esau, you've blown it. You've blown it. And away from the dew of the heaven above. You're not going to get the blessings of earth. You've messed up your physical. And you're not going to get the blessing of heaven. You've messed up your spiritual. You've created a seismic change in the spiritual and the physical. He says, you will live by the sword. In other words, you're going to be fighting battles for the rest of your life. Because of what you've done, you're going to have to always be in protect mode. Because of what you've done, you're going to always be looking over your shoulder, figuring out whether someone will ever figure out that the affair is going on. Because of what you've done, you'll always be checking your internet history to make sure that no one could ever discover the thing that breaks you down. He says, you're going to live by the sword. And he tells him, and you'll serve your brother. You're going to serve the deceiver. You're going to serve the one who stole this from you. You're going to serve your brother, your younger brother. It's all sinking in for Esau, what he's done. I think it's all sunk in for you in some cases. You blew it. You blew it again. You're blowing it again. And I always stop there. That's the story of Esau, right? I mean, that's it. He blew it for a bowl of red. I mean, how ridiculous is this guy who gave up all that he had for just whatever was in that bowl, like a bowl of red soup? How ridiculous. And I know some of you are like, how ridiculous was it that I thought that I loved her and I really just was running after lust? How ridiculous was it that I blew up my family over that decision? And that's where the story of Esau ends. I mean, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 16 says, watch out for the Esau syndrome, trading away God's lifelong gift in order to satisfy a short-term appetite. That's the Esau we know. That's the Esau you feel like in your sin. That's the Esau that we walk into church oftentimes feeling heavy about, going, man, I've got the Esau syndrome in my life. I've given up all of this because of these stupid mistakes. I've made dumb decisions, and you feel weight on your shoulders, and you just are there. But then it's in verse 40 still. Isaac continues talking. We stop on Esau, but he continues. We give up on Esau, but he continues, and he says, but when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck. You'll serve your brother. You'll have no dew from heaven. You'll have nothing from the earth. But when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck. But when you decide that you're not going to live under the condemnation anymore, but when you decide that it was one mistake, it was one bad day, but I'm not going to live that for the rest of my life. When you decide, I will put my heel on Satan in my marriage, and I will not allow him to destroy me. When you decide that the addiction can't have you anymore, when you decide that God is bigger than any problem that has come into your life, when you decide that you will not live under the Esau syndrome, when you decide, you have the decision, because it's not in your DNA to give up. It's not in your DNA to say, I quit. It's not in your DNA to let it beat you down. It's not in your DNA to say, I've been pushed down. It's not in your DNA to say, I can't do it anymore. I know you can't do it anymore, but you are more powerful in Christ, because in Jesus, we had the power. So let me just tell you what happens to Esau. Esau goes away. Later on, Jacob is going to send to Esau, and he's going to, remember, we saw it last week, he sends over the Barak, he sends over the river, and he sends to him, and he says, can I buy back your love? Can I buy your forgiveness? He sends him all of his cattle, all of his livestock, everything, and he sends it to Jacob, basically giving back his birthright to him. He basically says, you can have it all back. And Esau sends back word and says, no, I'm good. I don't need your livestock. I don't need all of your things. All I want is just to come and be your brother again. I'm good. And we think that Esau remember Jacob went away for 20 years, and he's in hiding, and he's having a bad life because he made some bad decisions. But Esau goes away, and he decided at some point that he wasn't going to live under the yoke. He decided at some point that he was going to have a different life. He decided at some point. You say, well, I thought it's all God. There is a point of decision for every single one of us when we have to allow God to give us the blessings. And what Isaac was telling Esau is, it's not about my blessing. It's about the blessing. It's not about what I can give you. It's about what you can get from God. It's not about this decision that you've made. There are new decisions to be made in your life. And so I wonder when you're going to decide. I know that the abuse almost killed you. But when are you going to decide, I'm not going to live under the yoke anymore? I'm not going to do it. I know that they broke your heart. I know it. It's real. But when you decide, I won't live under the yoke anymore, I know that you feel crushed, but you're not defeated, because it's not in your blood. God, would you show us that? God, would you help us to make these decisions that God, we would decide who we are, what we're going to be. That God, we would decide to allow your DNA to flow through our blood. And that God, we would know that as we make these decisions, that you are ready to move again in our lives. I believe that there are people here right now that can hear my voice, that just need God to do something again, to breathe again in your life. They need God to move again in your life. And so during this response time, maybe you would go to the crosses and just ask God for his power in your life. Maybe you would go to take communion, remembering it's the body and the blood of Jesus, that he would do it again. God, we love you. We're responding to you. We're worshiping you. So we ask you to be present with us in Jesus' name. Amen.